First, myself is Andrew. I'm also on the board of the Racial Equity Screen Office. And I want to introduce my co-board member, Brian Pang. He is a product development director at Electronic Arts. He also serves as a lead advisor and a board member of many other organizations centered on equity for Asian Americans. Brian is devoted to advocacy for marginalized communities, for justice initiatives, and systemic improvements to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion. And again, he is also one of the board members of the Racial Equity Screen Office. So Brian will be introducing Shannon Lee for us. So Brian, welcome to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. How are y'all doing? Excellent. Welcome again to East by Northwest. So we're so excited to bring this afternoon's panels to you today. And our vision for East by Northwest is to connect storytellers, content creators, producers, actors, policymakers, and more with the aim to spotlight, empower, and uplift the work and talent of racialized creators across numerous platforms, from film, TV, gaming, to frontier technology. I hope you're all experiencing this so far today. So it is my absolute honor to introduce our distinguished guest for the segment, Shannon Lee. Shannon is the CEO and owner of the Bruce Lee family companies and chair of the Bruce Lee Foundation, as well as the daughter of the legendary martial artist and cultural icon, Bruce Lee. Her mission is to provide access to her father's philosophy and life through education and entertainment, and be a cause of healing and unity in the world. Shannon also continues Bruce Lee's legacy as chair of the Bruce Lee Foundation and its executive producer of HBO Max series Warrior. Warrior is a crime drama set in the late 19th century during the brutal Chinatown Wars in San Francisco. And Warrior is full of vivid fight choreography, as well as gritty narratives that speak to the political climate of the period, in particular, the simmering racial tensions and anti-Asian sentiment in America. Now, the world recently commemorated the 50th anniversary of Bruce Lee's death. And today, Shannon will reflect on his legacy. Shannon will share the platform for diverse narratives in Hollywood, and which has since grown since her father's era, and the systemic challenges that racialized creators and members of the entertainment industry still face. Bruce Lee exemplified strength. He also exemplified confidence, inclusivity, honor, and the mindset that if we are marginalized, we must build our own spaces to thrive. So we are so incredibly honored and excited to feature Shannon here at East by Northwest as we recognize her work with the Bruce Lee Foundation in preserving and continuing Bruce Lee's legacy and her philosophy and teachings of mind, body, and spirit. Be water, my friend. Big thanks as well to Gold House for bringing this segment together, for bringing Rizzo to Shannon, and also the Bruce Lee Foundation. And without further ado, here is Shannon Lee.
Hi, everyone. Woo, what an honor to be here with all of you, truly. I want to thank East by Northwest. I'm glad you said Rizzo, because I was like, how do you say this? I know it's Racial Equity Screen Office, and Gold House for bringing me here to be with all of you. It is my absolute honor to share about my father's life, about his philosophies, and not just share about them, but also serve as a reminder for everyone about what we can take from him. So I've prepared a few clips to weave into the interview. The clips come from, actually, interestingly enough, a Canadian talk show. All of the clips are from the Pierre Berton show. I don't know if anyone in this room is old enough to remember Pierre Berton. Okay, great, yay. And if you haven't seen the full interview, I really recommend that you look it up and watch it because it's quite something. But I just grabbed a few clips that help to talk about what we're all gathered here to talk about today. So I'm gonna start with the first clip here, and then we'll talk some more. And isn't this the discussion we are still having today? This was in 1971. This is 52 years ago. There's still worry about the business risk, the acceptance, criticism over being too this or too that. There's also the problem of content that has people of color performed through the lens of a white gaze or an uninformed gaze, as you will. This desire to exoticize but not really be authentic. But as he said, and I love it when he says it, he's like, but it's all right. It doesn't matter. Because if you honestly express yourself, it doesn't matter. So this is the true legacy of Bruce Lee. This is what we are celebrating and what I want to share with all of you. You know, my father, as we have mentioned and as you all know, is a global icon. And I just want to remind everyone that he became a global icon based largely off of one season of a canceled TV show and 4.5 films. Yeah, there were some other things, but those are the ones that most people remember. He also died at the age of 32. So somehow he managed to influence and change the trajectory of action filmmaking around the world, martial arts around the world. He managed to inspire and uplift Asian Americans and people of color and people all around the world. He managed to shift perception and shift culture worldwide. One canceled TV show, 4.5 films, just saying. So let's keep watching. So he said, I've already made up my mind. And I know I'm in a room full of people who have already made up their mind. And that you are all a part of the legacy of Bruce Lee in that way. And that this is the true legacy of Bruce Lee. So let's talk a little bit about the secret sauce. Because he's not just saying it, he's like embodying it, right? And this is the whole thing, the embodiment, the authentic nature of himself. He says the key ingredient was that I was being myself. So yes, he was playing a character, but he was within that character bringing his authentic nature to bear. So I want to talk a little bit about abundance, because I know it was mentioned yesterday at the reception. And we often think of abundance as something that we will know we have when we get it. But in that sense, it will always be something that we don't already have, that is outside of ourselves. So I want to be very Bruce Lee about this and redefine abundance as a point of recognition and appreciation for what is already there. So personally, individually, he did not start from a perspective of lack from within. And this is to be water, is to be one's natural essential self, and to understand that that nourishing center, that spirit, is there for you abundantly. He has a quote that he said, which is, "Know what you want. I know that my idea is right, and therefore the results will be satisfactory. I don't really worry about the reward, but to set in motion the machinery to achieve it. My contribution will be the measure of my reward and my success." And here we are talking about him 50 years later, right? He wanted to be known for what he shared and not what he accumulated. And we all have something to share that is unique, that is authentic to our very selves. He played a very different game, a game that was also talked about yesterday, a game of wholeness, a game of positivity and creativity and growth from the position of believing in oneself. He said, when a man comes to a vital realization of those great spiritual forces within himself and begins to use those forces in all areas of his life, his progress in the future will be unparalleled. He, him pronouns, because these are his quotes, but they apply to us all. So water, yes, it's flexible, it's natural, it's formless, and we can take that from it. But water doesn't lose its identity. Water takes up space. He said, be formless, shapeless. You put it in a cup, it becomes the cup. And yes, water can create. It could combine with other things to make something entirely new. And water is the essence of life, which we are the essence of life. So if you want to be like water, you need to be in coherence with life and not resistance. We want to be in the creative act, not in the resistant act. You know, my father used to say whenever he encountered an obstacle that his initial instinct was to fight because he was a fighter. That's what he did. But pretty soon he would realize that what was needed was not resistance, but to go with the problem, to work with the problem, because the problem is the solution. So in my work in stewarding his legacy, which is big and heavy sometimes, I had to learn these things too. I could let this energy, this big energy, crush me, or I can use it to nourish me. What I feel about it is just a clue of where my attention needs to go within in order to express creatively without. My mind must look at the problem as a solution, right? Now he said, don't think, feel. Feel. So when you are getting frustrated and stuck, you are actually in a golden place of opportunity and potential. Because you already know what's not working. So now, if you can shift your perspective and your mindset, you can decide a new way. Try to find, through creative solution, a different way. Because you know the one that is sticking you isn't working, whether that's inside or outside. And this is the mindset. You know, I often talk about his legacy as one that really speaks to possibility. Like this was possible. Not only possible, it happened. And we're all so inspired by it. And we're so impacted by it. We're still talking about it today. We're so excited when we watch him speak, right? And so we need to be kung fu masters of cultivating ourselves, because this is where it starts. Our own voice, our own gifts, so that when the opportunity presents itself to use those gifts, you're ready. And they are there for you. And you have to have some faith. You have to have some trust in yourself and in life that whatever it throws at you is there for you to use to find the way. and a new way. So, I spent many, many years, I'm 54 now, I spent many, many years of my life feeling a lot of stress and pressure at being Bruce Lee's daughter and having to steward this legacy and be like, but I can't fill those shoes. Like, those are huge shoes, I can't do that. And I'm reminded of a couple of things. First of all, he said to always be yourself. And don't go out and duplicate someone else. Be yourself. So I'm not supposed to be that. I'm supposed to be me. And then I also have to have a mindset shift, right? Because we get really stuck in the negative. And so we get stuck in this idea of like, ooh, this is hard, this is hard, this is hard. And this is just a few years ago. I was like, you know what? Actually, I was born Bruce Lee's daughter because I'm capable of being Bruce Lee's daughter. Thank you. And so it's like anything that you're struggling with, right? Like, how can you flip it? How can you flip your perception? And this is what I've had to do. I've had to learn how to believe in myself. I've had to learn how to feel and trust what I feel, what I sense, because that's very important. Not just what you think, because as we know, our mind likes to really get in there and turn things around and spin all the angles and confuse us sometimes. What do I feel? I've had to learn from my mistakes. I've had to forgive myself. I've had to learn how to guard my own energy so that I get to use it for me. I've had to learn how to stay focused on what I love and not on what I don't love. And I've had to find my soul family in this life, which is hopefully what we're getting to do here this weekend. We're talking about the benefits of racialized content, and I want to say racialized content is authentic content in the right hands. So if we work for authentic content based in true heart-centered expression, then as Bruce Lee would say, it hits all by itself. So I was asked to talk a little bit about Warrior also, and why it's so representative of his legacy and the work that we have to do still. And I have to say, Bruce Lee created that TV series because the content that he wanted to be able to express and be in did not exist. And it took 50 years to bring it to the screen. He saw what others saw as exotic and different as his uniqueness and his superpower. And you all have those superpowers inside of you. The journey of this show, is a 50-year journey, which I don't wish on any of you. But, our show has been canceled and then resurrected. It's been through 2 corporate mergers. We're still waiting to see what the result of this last one is. But like my father said, it doesn't matter, because we were honestly expressing ourselves. And I trust that if it is meant to keep on going, it will. And not because we have to fight, but because we nurture it with our love and our energy. And that will help it to keep growing and going, even if this is it. It's out there like this. This ended 50 years ago, but it's still out there nurturing and going and growing. So, one thing that he said is that there is no such thing as an effective segment of a totality. If one aspect is not being nurtured, is not being given what it needs, then the totality is not total. And so we are here to create an effective totality through our stories, through our energy, through our hearts. So we're finding out right now the hard way that the totality isn't working, because look at the chaos that we're in, right? But chaos, as my father said, within chaos lies opportunity. And I'm reminded, and I love that in the I Ching, the translation for chaos is difficulty in the beginning. So we're in the beginning, not the end. The beginning, because the end is the beginning, always. So here is one final clip that I want to play, where my father talks about where others saw roadblocks, he saw opportunity. So the question was posed to me, what changes or progress have I seen, and where are the barriers still? I mean, we've seen a lot of progress, especially in the last few years. Out of chaos, there has been opportunity, and opportunity has been seized. And where are the barriers still? The barriers are here. They're inside here. So I really want to encourage my father's core philosophy and tenet, which is using no way as way, having no limitation as limitation. And don't get attached to the results. Just keep moving through the energy. Just keep creating. You know, this is the thing that I cannot stress enough. Creativity is a forward act. So go forward. You know, the last thing that I just want to say is that one of the pieces of his legacy that I'm working very hard on right now is the Bruce Lee Foundation. That's what that stands for. And this is our public charity, and we're focused on mental wellness, in particular for youth and people of color, where there's a lot of stigma around, talking about your mental wellness. But why is Bruce Lee a great poster child for this? Because he was able to do what he did because he trained his mind as hard as he trained his body. And we know what his body looked like, so. His mind, I mean, right? And this is the work that we have to do. It is not easy to stay positive. It is not easy to keep going, but you have to attach to the positive, to where the pockets of flow are, to your like-minded people that you find, to the people who get you, right? And you need to ride that forward. And that takes practice. And my father had amazing tools for this, that it is my absolute privilege and desire to give to anyone who will take them. He said optimism is a type of faith. And he said patience is not passive, it is concentrated strength. So I just want to end by saying, you can't be a trailblazer if there's already a trail. Everything should be seen as a point of interest, everything a curiosity, everything a puzzle. Hold that mindset, and you will be successful. Kill the dark places within yourself with kindness and positivity, and find the way forward. And what we already know will be known. extinguish those dark places by shining your light. Is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. But it's good hard, right? So go forward, and thank you so much for having me today.
Can we just keep it going for Shannon? We really can. I hope you're all as inspired as I am by that speech. Next up, we will shift to a question and answer segment hosted by actor, director, producer Archie Ko. Archie is best known to American audiences for TV series regular roles on Chicago PD, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, and CSI Crime Scene Investigation. Archie is currently a regular on Hulu's Interior Chinatown series. Great show. Okay, let's give it up for Archie Ko.
Wow. This might be my first fanboy moment ever. This is tremendous. I have to tell you, you did such an amazing, comprehensive job with your speech. I had questions that are now out the window. But I have to tell you, it can't be overstated how much society is indebted to you for obviously the tremendous impact you've had as a steward and ushering forth your father's legacy. I can only imagine what weight that must have been.
Thank you. I mean, there have certainly been times, as I mentioned, where I felt like I was being crushed by it. And, you know, oftentimes people ask me, what is it like being Bruce Lee's daughter? And so first of all, I don't know anything else than that. So it's hard for me to say what it's like. But honestly, it's not any different than what it's like to be you. And I really want you to all hold on to that, because we tend to ascribe a certain amount of like special sauce to celebrities and things like that. It's not any different. I'm trying to live up to what my parents were like, so are you. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to make a career, so am I. Like, it's exactly the same.
Well, that is wonderfully generous of you to say that, but let's be honest with you. Not many people in the world as famous as your dad.
This is true. I mean, yes, my circumstances have a different color than your circumstances, but, you know, it's a beautiful thing to be in receipt of the tremendous amount of love that there is for him, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine somebody else better suited for this. I can't imagine. So anyway, you've spoken much of, and obviously the whole world is very familiar with the out of this world physicality of your father. But much of what you've done with chaperoning his legacy is also expressing the philosopher that he was, the humanitarian that he was. And so I wondered if maybe in this 50-year journey to get Warrior made, if maybe you could expand upon what type of superhero powers maybe needed to be enacted there to bring that to life.
Sure. I mean, I do want to say, because my father, he tried to get this show made. He wrote the treatment for it. He pitched it to Warner Brothers, and they said, that's great. We are thinking about putting you in a show, but at the end of the day, you're Chinese. American audiences are not going to be okay with that. And you have an accent, hard to understand, so we really can't let you star in a TV show. And, he also created the film, for those of you who know a little bit about my father, Silent Flute, and he had James Coburn attached to star. He had Sterling Silliphant. Sterling Silliphant is an Oscar-winning screenplay writer, but still, he could not get those projects off the ground. He could not make Hollywood believe in him the way he believed in himself. So he had to leave Hollywood. He had to go to Hong Kong to make those movies. And then Hong Kong was like, Hollywood was like, oh, wait, you're bankable? oh, okay, well, now we'll make a movie with you. And then, of course, we have Enter the Dragon, which was the dragon heard round the world. So that treatment sat in a box for decades. I knew about it. It was always part of my, family story time. But it sat in a box for decades, and it wasn't until Justin Lin, who was able to make impact in Hollywood, came to me and said, I've always heard this story that your father created a TV show. Is that right? And I said, yes. And he said, you don't happen to know where it is? And I said, yes, it's right here. And he said, well, can I see it? Would you want to make that? And I said, sure, but here's the thing. So in my journey in stewarding this legacy, people are like, how come it's taking you so long to make projects? It's taking me so long to make projects because I don't want to just make any project with anyone for any reason. It's not about that. For me, it's about continuing a legacy. And so the thing that Justin said to me, which was music to my ears, was, we should do this if you want to, but we should only do it if we can do it the right way, in the way that honors your father's legacy and his vision. And if we get to create the show we want to create. And I was like, yes, please. And that's why this is the first project, even though I've been at this for 23 years. This is the first project.
And certainly, we hope not the last.
No.
Yeah.
Hopefully not the last. There are many, many more things that I'm working on, and it's taken time to get to this place. I've had to fight many battles in order to gain control of my father's legacy. For when I first started, his legacy was his commercial name and likeness rights were in the hands of someone else in perpetuity. And it took me 11 years to get them back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I did. So that's also why it's taken time. But, and I've had a lot of producers come to me and say, we want to do this project about your father. And I'm like, okay, what's the project? And they're, oh, this is the project. They describe it. And I say, well, okay, well, what do you want from me? And they say, well, I don't really want anything from you. We just want you to give us your blessing. And I said, well, that's not really how I go about things. Like, it's my father's legacy, so I always want to make sure anything that I'm doing and giving my blessing to, I'm involved in, that I get to have a seat at the table. And they're like, well, we don't really want you to have a seat at the table. I'm like, okay, then I don't want to work with you. And it's taken time, but, the thing that I do, and maybe you can answer this question, is the thing I do believe is that, like, once you get a foot in the door and you make something, that is the beginning of people seeing your work. And then if you can use your energy wisely for yourself and follow the threads as they reveal themselves, that there is always more to go. Do you find that to be the case?
Certainly, yeah. I, in my personal journey, in a very small microcosm of it, in kind of a similar respect, I started my career in Los Angeles, but I felt very limited in the capacities that I was able to perform in. So I actually moved to China and worked in that market exclusively for like 5 years. But what's interesting is, since I had come back, I came back to the States just in time for COVID. So I sat on my hands for a couple of years like the rest of the world. But what's exciting now, and what we've all been able to witness, is I think that we're at a watershed moment for our culture, our Asian community at large, is that I think that there's now more of an equilibrium between art and commerce. And so when that collides, now we have the opportunity within which to tell stories that will resonate. And so at the heart of it all, if we have the opportunities to do that, that's great, but it still needs to be a fundamentally sound story.
Sure.
Right? And so that's why I'm excited about what you're doing, because obviously we have a lot of momentum with that, and we're really excited to to see that. So
Sure. Well, and it's on it, you know, it's about being authentic and really honestly expressing yourself. You know, my father, one of the things that he said was he would find it to be the greatest thing, the greatest accomplishment in his life is if somebody saw his performance or saw something he created and said, now there is something real. And I think that we can all see that when you see something that's real, that comes really from your essential self, that other people are immediately they gravitate toward it, magnetized by it.
absolutely. I mean, it was very clear with the clips that you shared that every single thing that he said still resonates today, exactly true to form.
Yeah.
And that is a testament to what you speak of with authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something everyone can do. That's the beauty of it. It's something everyone can do.
I think my personal journey just in the performing arts has just been a journey to, being able to get all the other stuff out of the way. I think everybody can do it if you just get all the other stuff out of the way, which I think your dad spoke a lot of as well. But
Yeah.
of course. But I feel like everybody could sing their own. They have to just, without sounding too corny about it, everybody can get out of their way so they can hear their own music. And I've spent much of my journey trying to do that for myself. And once I think I've gotten better at it over the years.
Listen, getting out of your own way is not easy. Like, we are in our own way. That is who is in the way. Stuff happens in life. People say, no, I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Of course it happens, but it's not what happens that is at issue. It's what you let it do to your spirit. It's your response to it. And so, yes, like this idea of getting out of our own way and really cultivating the self and expressing that and sharing that and being authentic and all the things we've been talking about, it's not easy, but it is doable.
Do you think that with regard to this, what is your personal journey of it? Is there something that you've had to get out of your way and to learn to go forth and be?
So many things.
Yeah, I don't know if we can boil it down, but is it possible to maybe boil it down, discern it into something that's more something we can speak of?
I have, and this is why I'm saying that my journey is just like everybody else's journey. I have had absolute issues of self-worth, of self-love, of self-care. I have avoided lifting up the covers and looking, in the dark places of my own self. I have pretended that everything is fine. Everything's fine. What are you talking about? Everything's fine. And I have exhausted myself, and I've done all the things. And we're efforting so hard to have some measure of joy and success in this life when that is really something that comes from within. Like, I don't know how else to say it, but his journey was a journey of personal growth, personal discovery. And he found it exciting. And he was always kind of experimenting with himself, with his life, with his body. When he would get to a place where he was stuck, he would get angry first, and then quiet, and then say, okay, I'm stuck. How do I get unstuck? Because, a lot of times we get really, when we're stuck, we are like, well, but this is the way it's supposed to happen. Why isn't it happening? And it's like, well, because, we're not looking at a bigger picture, and we're not thinking about the other ways, which is why I said using no way as a way.
It sounds like mentally keto.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. It's mental wellness and it is like Kung Fu master level mental stuff, right? And not believing anything that people say about you, and then if somebody says something negative about you, asking, why? Why did someone say that about me? Is it just their wrong perception, or is there something I'm doing? You have to be willing to look.
That must have been really challenging to go on this journey for your own development, but also under the scrutiny of, the worldwide audience, right?
Well, I hid for many, many years. I mean, and I'll give you a perfect example. I have a project that I'm working on now where I got into a deal with a producing partner, as you do. And sometimes you don't realize that they're maybe not the most awesome producing partner, but then you're in a deal with them. And so you have to be in a deal with them. And every time I would get on the phone, I would be really annoyed and I'd get really agitated and I'd be like, he's so this and blah, 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 blah. And then I realized at some point that he's just being him. I can't change him. I can't change the situation I'm in, but what I can change is myself. I don't want to spend my time feeling this way. So I'm just going to be like, okay, great. Okay, bye.
So that realization came all at once? that in one moment you had that realization?
In one moment, yes.
Wow.
But after many moments of suffering.
Mm.
And I guess what I would say is that, we tend to look at our suffering a certain way, but use it. Use your suffering to go I'm suffering. I mean, it's the same with when my brother died, right? I had no control over that. That was a hideous moment in my life. And I was in a lot of suffering. And I was in so much suffering that at some point I was like, I literally can't feel this way anymore. I can't live my life like this. And yet I have to. So how do I make myself feel better? What is it that I need to do? And so use the suffering to inspire you to get rid of the suffering.
Yeah. I'm sitting here on the stage right now realizing I'm here with a real life superhero. So it's really incredible. I can only imagine what you've been through with obviously not just your father, but your brother and how you've endured through it all. And now at this time to be able to, sit here and share it with this room and beyond with the Bruce Lee Foundation. We've spoken about what you've done and how you've gotten here, but I wonder, would you mind elaborating a little bit further on the Bruce Lee Foundation and what further you plan to do with it? And
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And I think we're running close on time, so I will just quickly share a little bit about the Bruce Lee Foundation. So as I said, our focus is on mental wellness. We have created Camp Bruce Lee for kids. So fun. And the idea for me is that my father, the whole reason I got into any of this, by the way, I'm in it because this is my life, but the reason I got into stewarding his legacy publicly is because it has been healing for me. His words have healed me. His practices have healed me. And I know they've healed a lot of other people too. Many of you I've spoken to have come up to me and said, your father inspired me to do this, or he really helped me. He changed my life. And so, with Camp Bruce Lee, my idea is to put these tools into kids' hands, and particularly into kids' hands who maybe don't have access to some of these tools, so that they can try to navigate life before they're in crazy crisis. And so we have workshops that we do with college-age kids, high school-age kids. We have Camp Bruce Lee for the younger kids. We have scholarship program. We do exhibits around the world to share his message and his philosophy with people all around the world. And we're in a growth and expansion phase right now where we really, really want to grow hugely and get these tools in people's hands. Because, I mean, I'm sure many of you are aware of this, but the leading cause of death among AAPI ages 15 to 24 is suicide. So we want to try to shift that mindset, because it is the mind, you know? Stuff happens in your life that's hard. How do you bear it? My father said, everybody wants to learn how to win. Nobody wants to learn how to lose. You have to actually learn how to lose in a way that the loss can be turned into a win. You can transcend and transform that. And so that's the hope of the Bruce Lee Foundation.
That's middle lost. That's tremendous. Thank you so much, Shannon. I see that our time is up. Is there anything in closing that you should share?
I just want to say, like, all of you, everyone here, I mean, you're here because you want to do what Bruce Lee did. You want to create the content that reflects you. You want to, be treated with equanimity and equality and with grace and with respect. And the way forward with that is not in negativity, but in positivity and creation and evolution and learning how to ride the waves of change rather than resist change. And so I just feel like all of you are the legacy of Bruce Lee. It's not just me, it's all of you. And I want to really commend you and the people who made East by Northwest happen, and that it's happening here. It can happen in so many other places, and thank you for being here, and thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. And if any of you have projects in development, 50 years, it gives us a lot of hope.
Yes, see, right? 50 years, it can still happen.
Thank you.